Hi everybody, Refresh here, and today I'm coming to you with a look at Mayday Games' Mini USA game size sleeves, that is, sleeve size for cards that are 41mm by 63mm. But before we get into it, we need to talk a little bit about a dispute that exists about the size of Fantasy Flight's cards. If you go to Mayday Games' website for these sleeves in particular, you will find that there is a notice on the page for the website, and it says that it's popular for use with Twilight Imperium, Warrior Knights, World of Warcraft board games, and many more. But further down on that page, you'll see that it says, "Notice, our Mini USA card sleeve size was based on another company's sizing claims that some really popular games were compatible. As such, please be cautious and make sure to measure your cards before ordering these sleeves, as information on the web pointing you to this page may be inaccurate. The following games are closer to 43 by 65mm, right between our Mini USA and Mini Euro sizes, and are incompatible with our Mini USA card sleeves. Listed on this page as incompatible with these Mini USA card sleeves are Arkham Horror and Expansions, Battlestar Galactica and Expansions, Chaos in the Old World, Middle Earth Quest, Talisman and Expansions, and others. And others doesn't really say all that much. But Mayday Games does produce a different sleeve called the Mini Chimera, I believe, that is supposed to fit cards listed there. Now, most of those games are Fantasy Flight sleeves, so I don't know whether another company that is mentioned on the website is Fantasy Flight itself or some other company that manufactures sleeves. But Mayday Games does specifically say that these are for card size 41mm by 63mm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure one of Fantasy Flight's Mini American sized cards, and that's going to be one of these inventory item cards for Arkham Horror, and see if it actually fits the 41mm by 63mm that is suggested that these cards are the size of. So right here, measuring it out, it looks like this is just under 41mm wide and just under 63mm tall. So these cards, which the website for Mayday Games Mini USA game size sleeves says are incompatible, are actually the size that is listed right here on the package for the sleeves. And so even though the website says specifically that Arkham Horror and its expansions are closer to 43 by 65mm, it seems that the website has incorrect information about the actual size of this card. As you can see, I measured it, and if you compare this with other so-called Mini American cards from Fantasy Flight, like cards from X-Wing or so forth, they all happen to be the same size as this. So I'm going to test these cards, despite the fact that the website says that these are closer to 43 by 65, which is definitely not true, with these sleeves, which are for cards of exactly this size. And that's the caveat that I have to throw out here, because the website specifically says that Arkham Horror cards and other mostly Fantasy Flight game cards that are of this size are not compatible with these sleeves. However, the cards themselves are actually this size. So I need to put that out there before I start this, so that those of you who are watching are aware that the website says that these are not compatible with these cards, despite the fact that they are actually under this size that is listed on the package. So it is probably likely that Mayday Games is mistaken in terms of either the size of its sleeves or the measure of the cards that it believes are not compatible. And we're going to find out what's true. Mayday Games' Mini USA game size sleeves are clear, as is typical for most board game sleeves. They come in a package of 100, and these are the standard sleeves, so they're soft sleeves, and you can get that package for $1.75, which averages a little bit less than 2 cents per sleeve, so it's fairly inexpensive. They're not quite as cheap as penny sleeves, but still probably the least expensive sleeves that you can get for cards of this size. Let's take a look at what we have inside. As you can see, the sleeves are glossy and smooth on both sides. It looks like there's already a little denting on this sleeve. I don't know if you can tell from looking at it through the camera, but there's a little bit of denting on some of these sleeves already. So they're not pristine, fresh out of the pack, but then again, you're paying 2 cents per sleeve, so they're very inexpensive. Now, let's measure the thickness here. 100 sleeves are going for about 8 millimeters, and that is going to be about 80 microns per sleeve or 40 microns per face. Let's see what the dimensions are. These appear to be just under 44, so I'll say 43 millimeters wide by just under 66. So 65 millimeters tall. Now, let's see if one of these sleeves actually fits one of these cards. Despite what the website says, it seems as though it fits just fine actually. There's a little bit of space and play on the bottoms and the sides. The top actually has about the same amount of play as the sides do. So I don't know why the website says that these cards won't fit these sleeves, but they do seem to fit, at least on the first sleeve. Next up is the sleeve test. So I'm going to take these 44 Arkham Horror common item cards and stick them inside 44 of these 100 Mayday standard sleeves for Mini USA cards and see how long that it takes. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it took 2 minutes and 25 seconds to sleeve these 44 Arkham Horror common item cards, and that amounts to about 3.3 seconds per card sleeved, which is a bit on the medium to slower side. Not terribly slow, but a bit slower. As you probably saw while I was sleeving these cards, there's a bit of static on these sleeves, and that causes the sleeves to spin and bounce and slide around as you handle them once they're sleeved in the sleeves. And this also affects the stack of sleeves that you're taking sleeves from. They really just slide around a lot. Now that we've sleeved all the cards, let's take a look at the quality overall. It seems like these sleeves are fairly uniform. If you feel them, some of them are a little bit just very slightly larger than the others, but it's much milder than some of Mayday's other sleeves, so it's not terrible. The height actually seems to be quite uniform, even if the width is just slightly varied. Overall, the sleeves themselves are in fairly good shape. Again, they're very slippery. There are some dents on some of the sleeves, but I don't think it's going to be marking your cards or anything like that to use them like this. Now let's count the remaining sleeves to make sure that there's 56 left here, so that we have at least 100. Ready? Alright, looks like there's 58 sleeves here. That plus the 44 that are here means that there are actually 102 sleeves in the pack. So it's not short. In fact, there's 2 bonus sleeves in here, which is kind of nice. Okay, and I'm going to do the shuffle test. So I'm going to take these 44 sleeved Arkham Horror common item cards and shuffle them 100 times and see how long that it takes. Ready? Set. Go. Okay, it took 1 minute and 55 seconds to shuffle these sleeved cards 100 times, and that's the speed of 1.15 seconds per shuffle. That's actually quite fast, and I could feel right away that this would be a fairly fast shuffle just because the sleeves are really slick. Even though they have that typical soft sleeve issue where it's sometimes hard to keep a grip on them just because they squish a little as you handle them, the slickness of the sleeves makes sure that they just go right into each other without any hesitation. And the fact that the cards are just smaller than other cards means that there's much less resistance in general because there's not as much surface to surface friction just because the surfaces are a lot smaller. So the shuffling process is actually very smooth. The only problem is, again, it doesn't feel great just because of the squishiness of the sleeves, and then also because they're so slippery, sometimes they might jump out of your hands as you're sliding them across each other. So you have to really make sure that you grip them right as you shuffle. Even if it's not the best feeling shuffle, it is a very fast, efficient shuffle, so I can't really fault these, especially since you go into soft sleeves expecting that sort of squishy feel as you shuffle and handle these cards. Now that we've taken these cards through some handling, let's take a look to see how they've fared. Okay, so I think overall these sleeves are in fairly good condition. Some of the corners do seem like they've taken some hard bends, and then there are some additional dents along some of these sleeves, but for the most part they seem to have held up well as far as soft sleeves go. So I think these are going to probably have the typical durability of a soft sleeve. They're not going to be the longest lasting sleeves, but they will probably be just fine. They don't seem to be prone to any unexpected durability issues for sleeves of this kind. Alright, I'm going to do the shake test now. These 44 Arkham Horror common item cards have been sleeved and put into the stack. As you can see, there is just a little bit of air inside of this deck. But we're going to shake the table for about 2 seconds and see if this deck holds up. Ready? Okay, so it's little. I think if you were to take a harder shake, then the deck might fall, but for the most part, I think that it holds up fairly well. The sleeves are slick against each other, but I think that they're also held together by that static that it collects, and so in some ways, it actually gives this otherwise very slick deck quite a bit of cohesion, and so I will say that it passes. Now I'm going to do the draw test where I draw 3 cards off the top of this deck and see if the deck holds together. Ready? Okay, I don't know what to call what just happened here, but while I was picking up one of the cards, the card kind of just jumped out of the sleeve. It's not happening again, so maybe, no, it's happening again. I don't know if it's perfectly easy to pick up cards from a sleeved deck using these sleeves, and part of that is because, again, of the slickness of the sleeve and just how the, I don't know, the physics of the sleeves are, so that as you pick it up and you're trying to pull it, the sleeves tend to pull at each other, so you'll have to try to pull the sleeve off of the underlying sleeves, and you can't just pick it up straight easily because, as you can see, the sleeves are so slick that the cards will want to come out of them if you're just grabbing them by the bottom and applying too much pressure to the top of the card. So I think it's going to require a light touch, but then sometimes when you do that light touch, it'll pick up more than one card at a time. So these aren't the easiest cards to draw off of a deck, and I'm gonna have to say that that's a fail, just because sometimes you'll want to take a card and it's not going to cooperate with you. It doesn't mean that you can't use these sleeves. It just means that sometimes when you're taking a card off the deck, it's not going to be quite as easy as some other sleeves might make it. That said, overall, these sleeves are still the least expensive sleeves that you can buy for cards of this size. Regardless of what the website says, it does seem to be fitting these Arkham Horror cards just fine. So I imagine that the other Fantasy Flight games that are listed as not compatible actually are, because they are actually just barely under this 41 by 63 millimeter size. So I don't think you need to be deterred by what the website says. You can absolutely buy these sleeves, at least for Arkham Horror cards and other Fantasy Flight games that use cards of this size. And because they're the cheapest sleeves you can get for cards of this size, they're always going to be a good consideration, just because you might have a game that has a lot of these cards and you might want to sleeve them all and you don't want to spend a lot of money, and in that case these sleeves are your only super inexpensive choice. Every other sleeve of this size is noticeably more expensive, and so if you're looking for inexpensive sleeves, these are not terrible. Like, none of them split on me. Sure, they do show just a slight bit of wear after the initial batch of shuffles, and their handling, while they're good at shuffling, they do have that issue where sometimes they'll not cooperate too well when you're trying to draw them from the deck. But those aren't exactly the worst of issues, and at the bargain that you're getting for these sleeves at 2 cents a sleeve, it's not bad at all. And I can absolutely endorse them as your cheap sleeve option, because they really do offer a decent amount of sleeve for a very, very low price. Hit the like button if this review was useful to you. Hit subscribe if you'd like to see other reviews and other gameplay videos and things that I might put up on the channel. I have a survey in the description box below. If you click on the survey, you can respond with your own personal experience of the sleeves' durability or their consistency outside of the package, and that information will be aggregated and put onto the Mayday Games resource page. But thanks everybody for watching. This was Refresh, and I will see you next time.